Uh, I'm so excited to welcome our two next guests. We have Naveen from Mayfield and Gary Tan, the CEO of Y Combinator. One thing I'll just say about Gary is that he does a number of things that I really admire. One, he's a founder, so when he speaks from a place of deep understanding. And as a founder, very early on in my journey, I pitched Gary, and I've pitched a lot of investors, and you can kind of very quickly know the difference between people who actually care, even if they invest or don't invest, and people who are kind of just there. And the other thing that I really admire about Gary is his leaning in on things that he personally cares about. And I think whether it be the city, the Bay Area, I deeply admire how he speaks and how he tries to make this a better place to live. His own, whether it's his faith or his personal beliefs, or what he's trying to do at Y Combinator and the really incredible changes. It was already great, but he has really had this huge impact on Y Combinator as well. So let's give a big welcome to Gary and to Naveen.
Thanks, man. Great to see you.
Thank you, Derek.
Oh, please.
It's a privilege and honor for me to be doing this fireside chat with Gary. I'm a huge admirer, one of the most influential investors, and also an ex-founder of this generation. Please join me in welcoming him. So Gary, how's it going with this environment? You guys are producing a lot of companies.
Oh yeah, we're having a lot of fun at YC. So, but we hope that, well, they're very, very good ones, and we really appreciate your partnership. Obviously, you guys have been legends, especially as software pervades society, and then AI is just software, but with intelligence attached, which is pretty wild.
Great, and you and I have been around the block a little, probably me a little bit more. What's your take on this revolution compared to what we saw with internet, mobile, cloud? Like, how excited are you and the team, and how is this different from the prior waves?
I mean, we pinch ourselves every day that we get to work doing this work right now. I mean, the really wild thing is to think about, we would probably be on this trajectory anyway, but my predecessor, Sam Altman, sort of realized that AGI was something that was worth working on early, and then he harnessed the resources and capital to make it happen, and then now we're living in that timeline. So all of this would have happened, it would have happened slower, and then the interesting thing is, like, we wanted to be faster, but not so fast that it causes problems, and what an interesting optimization problem that you sort of the people in this room, we're going to have to grapple and struggle with that over the next 5 or 10 years. But it's more interesting than the alternative, which is stagnation, and we can't have that.
Absolutely, right? Like, I believe this is a once-in-generation opportunity. The past waves, if they've been 10x, this is a 100x opportunity, right? So one of the things I admire about you as a leader in YC is, in this era of $100 million seeds, $500 million seeds, some are $1 billion seeds, how are you advising these entrepreneurs, and what's your message to the other founders to have the discipline? Because you guys are still doing a phenomenal job at the seed level of having the discipline. Yeah, the valuations are going up a little bit here and there in the YC community, but you guys are the most disciplined. So how do you manage this stuff, right? Like, you guys have some special water, some special drinks. How do you influence these people in this environment? Because it's the right model. Everybody has to make money.
I mean, I think the number one thing, when I was, an engineer starting my career, if you told me that, told me about the power law, yeah, I've seen graphs of this before, but now after, I don't know, 15, 20 years, maybe 15 of those as an investor, I sort of now realize, you just don't really understand how startups and technology work until you see the power law play out. I mean, my very first venture capital fund at Initialized was a $7 million fund, and we funded 100 companies.
Wow.
And 98 of them returned 1x in the end, 10 years later. Instacart returned it 1x on its own, and then Coinbase returned it 53x DPI.
Amazing.
So, which is crazy. I mean, and then when you look at that, you know, what you realize even for like the founders that we work with is like, this is the ultimate sort of pass-fail game. And the hard part is like, you know, the uncomfortable hard part is like, there are 1,000 different ways that you fail. And then what we realize as investors or, you know, as advisors very, very early, right, when it's like a few people starting out, all we can do is like prevent people from blowing themselves up from like the 1,000 landmines that like sort of just, like we've seen every possible case of how a startup could fail. And then what you're trying to do is prevent people from blowing themselves up so that they actually have a chance to be one of those companies that makes it all the way to the end and touches, you know, 1 billion people's lives. And that we get to play that game at all, that we get to be in the room, and that there's a chance that, you know, by your own hand and by the hands of the people sitting next to you in your startup, you could create something that puts a dent in the universe. How cool is that? And then, yeah, just don't blow yourself up. And then the rest, you know, I like to believe, like, as investors, we, you know, we maybe over-believe that we can help the founders find the thing that's going to be the giant thing. Whereas I think the real value to YC or just investors along the way is don't blow yourself up in these like very obvious ways, like co-founder disputes or not getting the legal docs right, or, you know, ignoring retention, or just like very obvious things. If, you know, even board work is basically that. It's like, you know, the founder is on their n=1 path, and then we can sort of at least like bring in the wisdom and knowledge of like, you know, 10,000, 100,000 other people who have been down that path, and they stepped on a landmine and they blew themselves up. And if they didn't blow themselves up in that moment, well, maybe they would have been the Instagram, or they would have been the WhatsApp, or they would have been the Meta. They would have been like the thing that became huge.
Got it. No, that's very, very insightful, right? Like you guys, like we were overwhelmed for this list to get a few thousand applications. I think like every few months, you guys get tens of thousands of applications to be part of YCE. How do you separate the signal from the noise? Because all of us, whether we are investors, entrepreneurs, industry builders, people who are here from media, policymakers, it's at the end picking people's, like where you are doing at the idea stage. How do you separate the signal from the noise, right? Is this black magic that you can't share, or are there like some attributes because you're going so early?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very obvious on the one hand. On the other hand, like we literally, so, you know, the process is crazy, 80,000 applications a year. We only accept about 600 to 700 per year, which is still a lot, but it's, you know, I feel very guilty about how small that number is compared to the applicants, in that it's like 99.3% of people who apply get rejected. And so, you know, there are surely people who could create really great startups that don't get in, and I run across them all the time. And, you know, I always look at them and say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake, but you're doing great, which is fantastic. So I think you know, the next step after the application is actually, we just meet them for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I think we would be able to do it in 5, but 5 minutes is rude. So, but 10 minutes is enough where, do I understand what it is? Do I understand why it's awesome or why it might be awesome? And then really great founders just sort of, they're able to use that 10 minutes in a way that like leaves you changed even in that moment. And then I think it's a little bit fractal. Like if you can leave an impression on someone in 10 minutes, like I learned something new, this is something that the world really needs. Like I want to, you know, sometimes we ask ourselves like, do we want to live in that world? Like someone comes in and paints a world that we could live in. Do we, you know, would I sign up for that? Like, you know, sort of sliding door style. Do we want to live there? And if you say yes and you learn something and they're very clear communicators, then that's why you could do it in 5 minutes. And then I think the world sort of psychs itself up a lot more. It's like there's that which is signified, which is like, is it something that could be of great value? And then the signifiers, like, did they go work at FANG, or did they go to the right college? And I feel like those are the trappings. They're like correlates, but they're not actually the causation. The causation is just very clear, just clear communication. Like, here's a point of view, a thing that's happening in the world, and we're going to make that happen.
Got it. And with all this content that is being produced, not only by people who are outside the investment business, but within the investment business, and I'm guilty of that too, how do you give advice to these founders? Because the expectations are like 10x of what it used to be. I meet founders, right, like, oh, I went 0 to 2-3 million, I'm not good enough. But that company went like 0 to 100, at least 10 is needed, right? Like those are like probably the power law companies, the anomalies we see. So how do you keep these people sane, right? Even though they're 600, 700, you don't want this to affect their psychology, because at the end, it's all a mind game.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is well known about YC. Like, we have a very strong bias towards engineers, product people, designers.
Builders.
We like the builder aspect. And then, sure, you can get there on like flashy X posts or going viral or being a troll on the internet, but that is only useful when paired with like sort of incredible, super world-class builders. And then, the other stuff you can't really control. Sometimes it's a function of the times. The thing that's very, very repeatable is like there's some technology that is being just sort of is unfolding at this moment that nobody else has created yet. And what is that edge? And you can always, Paul Graham would always write about, this is why the good news is 1 or 2 people just starting out can actually overcome big tech, or even the way overfunded juggernauts that get sort of foie gras with hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, it's an open season because 1 or 2 people can still defeat them, right? Like, they can still create something that is that much better.
Yeah.
And so we always say, like, go back into the lab. Like, it's not really, you don't have to like get better at memes necessarily. It doesn't hurt necessarily, but if you really want to do 10x or 100x, let's get back into the tech. Let's really double down on that. That's the only thing that.
So build
every single
amazing
time.
products, give like love to your customers, and the magic happens.
Yeah.
Got it. So in this era, right, like any difference you're seeing in the characteristic of the founders, right? Like, you and I have done enough waves. I'm beginning to see, right, with the vibe coding era, like entrepreneurship is getting democratized because I don't need to be an engineer. I still can be a builder. So is something changing, like in the people who are coming in, like you're seeing entrepreneurship and expertise getting democratized, or it's still very, very few people who are starting these companies?
Oh, tons of people are doing it. I mean, if anything, it's a youth movement. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen this. The weirdest thing is to see, like, there's sort of a generation that's like sort of the 25 to 35 generation that is, there's a lot of the people in that generation got really great jobs at FANG or, sort of the ZERP era startups. And then they're sort of like holding on for dear life. Whereas like the 18 to 25-year-olds right now, FANG's not hiring. They're sort of worried that this might be the last chance to participate in the economy, which I don't think is true. But there's that like deep anxiety. But the result is that the 18 to 25-year-old founders are AI native in a way that like, there's sort of a generation just a little bit older that is resistant. They're like, I think vibe coding is a scam. And it's like, really? Have you tried it? And they're like, oh, it used weird variable names. I was like, what are you talking about? You're like the perfect person to do this. Like, don't be left behind, So it's an interesting mixed. Like I think it is a youth movement, and I think that's kind of awesome, actually.
Yeah. One of the topics, right, like I've been thinking about, and you briefly mentioned how two people teams can topple the big tech. But if we look today, most of the value in the AI ecosystem has amassed to like 6, 7 companies, and then it's the model companies. And so how do we encourage people in the room and elsewhere that this is just the beginning of a movement, that they have to live the dream? What do you guys tell people that it's okay? NVIDIA is 5 trillion, the next company is 4 trillion, that you guys have a shot to be a $50, $100 billion company starting from zero.
Yeah.
Because none of these companies were worth that when they went IPO.
Yeah, I mean,
they were like 100, 200, $300 million companies
absolutely.
in market cap.
I mean, ultimately, it's about revenue, and I often think about that scene in Silicon Valley where they're like, you shouldn't have revenue because then you could be a pure play. And I'm like, that's maybe a cool thing about the AI age now. It's like, man, you got to have revenue. There's no other way. But the other thing is, when you come with some sort of like magic, I think 5, 10 years ago, it was very common to hear a software pitch that's like, we're going to save people money. And then now I don't think that's the thing that's working. I think the thing that's working is like, we're not even displacing humans. We're actually creating something that is better than what a human call center could do, for instance. I mean, there's all these AI voice companies that are on fire right now, and they're able to get to like from 0 to 50 mil ARR with 15 to 20 people. And then, Giga just launched they won the DoorDash contract. They, went from 0 to like halfway to their like 9-figure revenue number in like less than a year, and they're like less than 20 people. And so the stakes are higher now, of course. Like you can't just like triple, double, and you're good to go anymore. Like,
yeah,
it's
people get depressed. There's so much content out there that's not enough. But from your experience, and I've seen this with mine too, is it important to go after big tech? Because a lot of places where we have had home runs, they go after weaker incumbents and use technology and expand markets. So for example, right, like there's no company which had tools in like vibe coding. The incumbents in customer service are weak. It's a people business, right? So how do you look at that? Do you need to really go attack and be the next NVIDIA?
Yeah.
Or use what they are doing and go attack new markets and expand markets? Because you talked about Coinbase, like I was in Lyft, Poshmark, like you were, talked about Instacart. They just went after expanded markets, right? Like they weren't saying like, hey, I'm better, faster, cheaper. They did things which weren't possible before.
Absolutely.
So what are you seeing in this wave, right? Like, because when you go after people spend, that's much more than the information technology industry, which is 5 trillion. Knowledge worker spend globally is 30 trillion. If you take the physical world, it's another 50, 60 trillion. So what are you seeing with the companies, the examples you're giving?
Yeah.
To me, it looks like it's a market expansion, fragmented markets, weak incumbents. Just go.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is, NVIDIA is not our competitor, they're a partner. That's incredible.
Yeah, ours too.
I mean, basically, NVIDIA needs us. Like, actually, OpenAI and Anthropic need us. Like, our joke is that we're the commercialization arm of OpenAI at some level. If you think about what's happening, we can sort of count on the models getting, 2, 5, 10 times smarter in the next 2 to 5 years. What does that mean? It means that these companies aren't going to go from 0 to 50 mil ARR like they are in 2025. Like, I think we're going to see companies going from 0 to $100 million a year in net revenue, like in a single year with like maybe 10 people, right? Like you're not necessarily going to hire. I remember 10, 15 years ago, you felt like you needed to raise $100 million and have like 500 employees and like these built out C-level charts just to hit like 20 or 30 mil ARR. And that was sort of like the norm. And we just have like a different way of monetizing. And then the frank reality is like, what does it mean that this is, beyond an Apollo project level sort of project that, you know, bringing down the cost of intelligence to, you know, the cost that you wouldn't even meter it anymore. What, you know, well, how are they going to make good on all of those capital investments? It's going to be the people in this room and all the engineers and founders and future founders that are going to go in and create things that, you know, I mean, have you seen the estimates from economists? Like, if we can really do this properly, and, you know, society doesn't break apart as we do it, you know, it can happen at a pace at which, like, society can absorb it. Like, it's, you know, 7% GDP growth year on year is conservative, right? So this might be
It's crazy.
the age of abundance, but, you know, there's a lot to figure out, right? Like, we don't want there to be mass job loss, and that's sort of the question. It's like, you know, we're on a faster trajectory, but we also want to go slow enough that this is something that can be abundance pilled for all.
Yeah, and I was part of a World Economic Forum study. Yes, there'll be job displacement and job loss, but given what we saw with the information technology industry, they're predicting over 10 years, 80 million net new jobs will get created, because if companies are going to be worth, some of these companies which are worth multi-trillion, 10 years back were 110.
Yeah.
They have all-time cash. They have to invest somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's I agree with you, it's an expansion thing. So I want to touch on something you have been bringing up a few times in this conversation, which is you can scale much faster with fewer people. So how are you advising companies when you say they're AI native to build a company the AI native way? Because they have the advantage, they have no people, they have no process. So is there like some rules of the road you're beginning to see that they start with vibe coding, they're building with AI teammates, right? Like what are you seeing? And the companies which are scaling, because the scale is 10x, the number of people is 1/10, what are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately you have to actually implement AI within your own systems. So all those other times, 5 or 10 years ago, you'd say, I have an avalanche of tickets and I work backwards from, you know, time per ticket, per, you know, and per rate. And what do? You have to have, I need to hire 30 people. I need to, you know, farm this out to a particular call center and do it in a certain way. Now you just don't have to. You can, you know, try to figure out, okay, well, this is priority A, and then we're going to have like LLMs just handle that. And, you know, with I think that super intelligence, AGI is arguably quite here already. And you can just build systems internally that do the work of what you used to have to hire large sets of people to do. And, you know, the reality is like, that will be better. I mean, Giga is a great example. I mean, they're doing a pretty difficult thing. Like, they're going into DoorDash and they're taking over hundreds of thousands of daily tickets. You know, these are phone calls not just from customers, but also all their drivers. Like, it's actually very core to the operations. But I think they'll end up saving DoorDash maybe $50 to $100 million a year at least, and possibly a lot more. And when you listen to the phone calls, it's actually super intelligence. Like a driver for whom English might not be the first language, they're on a garbled, they're outside, it's windy, it's rainy, they're calling on a cell phone to DoorDash support. And then DoorDash support might simultaneously, through Giga, have a phone call open with the restaurant that there was like some sort of foul up. And you know, this person's saying this, they're talking to the restaurant, and then literally within 30 seconds, what used to take like this manual 3 or 4 step phone call back and forth process, texting, you know, 10 minutes go by, your food is cold. Like, it could be resolved like literally live in real time in 30 seconds, and humans wouldn't be able to do that. So I think we are starting to see actual like, this is sort of the pivot for startups. Like, I think that you shouldn't be, you know, pitching like workforce replacement. You actually could like go well beyond that, which is like, it's not about saving money. It's actually about creating a 10x better experience. And I mean, that, you know, it's sort of unfathomable. Like, we hear these calls where DoorDash drivers call, you know, they say something garbled, they're sort of surprised. On the other end, it's like, oh, did you mean this? Wow. And then they're like, yes, oh my God, this is great. And they'll just say at the end, it's like, whatever you're doing in customer support now, this is so much better. And so it's interesting. Like, I think the bar is raised, the expectations are raised, but the rest of society has no idea this is happening. Like maybe they know their kids are using ChatGPT, but I think we're like merely scratching the surface of this stuff actually entering into the way we do business. I think 5 or 10 years ago we were talking about like, new smart enterprise. Most of the world's commerce is still being transacted with paper and pencil and file cabinet, and then RESTful CRUD apps. We're sort of like coming in and selling Rails apps that like make it a little bit better. But now we're talking about making things like 10x or 100x better. And then I think that there's like just a lot of fear out there about, well, what does it mean for humans? And then I like what Ryan Peterson from Flexport says, which is, you can't underestimate human desire. Like people just want stuff. And like when you give people more empowering tools that allow them to make way better products and services, you don't get fewer products and services, you get more, and you get more opportunity, and you have more entrepreneurship. And rather than, to zoom out to what YC was for me, like I was working at big tech. I worked for Peter Thiel early at Palantir, but even then, I had like very little access to the equity and the actual stock. I didn't have access to like the amount of value that I was creating. I was creating it for other shareholders. And then the moment that I could become a founder and own 100% of my business, and then go and create things and have that sort of like be something that I really participated in personally, that's a very different moment. And I think people are very afraid that somehow this tech will place all of the value and all of the sort of access to gross margin in the hands of big tech. But I think my most contrarian take I think might be that what if we're on the white pill side of things? Like what if we can have our children all will become entrepreneurs? Like what if the nature of Coase's theorem of how big a firm should be, instead of it like naturally becoming thousands and tens of thousands, what if it's 10?
Yep. It's like the 1099 economy, right? Like what happened with labor, basically markets getting different. It could be completely different because, so that leads me to a few final questions. How do you think humans, whether it's me, you, and others, need to take advantage of this new AI era? What should we be doing as just humans? How do we collaborate with it? Right? Why have fear? Just endorse it, and basically is my approach, and ride this wave.
Yeah, I think the funnest unlock that I've learned lately, well, one personally, which is who here has kids, I highly recommend you can open up like Codex or Claude Code or whatever tool you want, and then if they probably are into Minecraft or Roblox, you can literally just open up both on and sit side by side and just be like, hey, what game should we make today? And so I made like my son's really into a tower defense game. So we literally made a tower defense game in about 2 hours, sitting there with Claude Code and Roblox Studio. And I don't know Lua, I've never opened Roblox Studio before, but that was a really fun thing. And I feel like that's actually, like I want my 10-year-old to have that be a part of how they think about things, because like they don't have to do any of this alone anymore. And the more they can take advantage of the tools and like be a really great prompter, well, that's agency. And then to be able to take the output of the prompt and then see it, well, there's a bug here, or I don't like how this was implemented. Just literally the builder mindset. As a 10-year-old, you could be a world-class game designer, and that's like, for the first time, you could do that. And so I think this is an incredible gift, and the more we do it. The other thing that's interesting is meta prompting. So even if the thing that comes back initially that you don't, if you don't like the output, this could be like any work product. Personally, I use it to make YouTube video scripts these days. It's like I'm in the shower, I'm thinking about like 1 or 2 different ideas or like some tweet I saw, and then I can just write like a 3-line, like very simple outline, And then I have a prompt that will turn that, like it'll expand, it'll do all this deep research, and it'll expand it into my own voice. But I had to sort of train it to do that. Like we went through, it would generate a script and I would critique it. I would say like, oh, I didn't like this part. Oh, I would never say this. Oh, this clip is too long, make it shorter. And then obviously I would get an output that I could film, but right after that, after I got to an output that I was happy with, I would say, give me the next version of this prompt. And so, I think I'm like on version 20 now of my YouTube script prompt, but every time I do it, like I have this prompt that then every single time gives me a better and better output. And I use that, you may not have a YouTube script, you may not need a YouTube script, but you sure might need, your next speech, your next all hands, like the next outline that you have to do for your team. Like these are all things that you can do to like, hone it. And now that we've done that, like I see it absolutely everywhere. Like I use Circleback with all of my office hours, and then for our internal CRM at YC, like I have a prompt that takes the notes from Circleback and then puts it into the perfect format so that my 14 other partners know exactly what's going on with my company. And now, once they saw that they have total transparency into my 25 startups, like they're starting to use it themselves. And now I know everything that's going on with their companies too, and I can help them. And I can even have a meta prompt now where it says, look through all of everyone's notes and pick out things that I, Gary, could, directly help. Like, and then I could give it my full contact list. And so, you can see how this is like better than the best associate you could ever hire. And it's really about building these systems, automating them. We have a bunch of things on cron jobs. I mean, I think the nature of work has totally changed. And, if you're not doing it, you should. I mean, the joke with me and Harj is that venture itself even will probably change so much that most of what we will do is will be relationship syncs.
Correct.
We're going to just get really good at pouring Manhattans and holding the relationship with the next founders, and then everything else, like, will be like extremely assisted.
Got it. So I think we have time for like one or two questions. I'm trying to think. So one of the things we didn't cover and is not talked about that much is the future of consumer. Things come in waves, go in waves, and besides the ChatGPT moment, before the iPhone moment, when a lot of consumer companies got created, you guys are getting a lot of the activities, at least the VCs are saying, is in enterprise, right? It's towards business users. What are you seeing on the consumer front, and when does that, the companies you mentioned were all consumer companies. So are you seeing the beginnings of consumer coming back and abundance happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. We're trying to fund a bunch of it. There's a health, the wildest thing is just taking the data from all of these other sources and putting it in front of ChatGPT or an LLM is really, really powerful. Like there's a company I'm working with right now. It's just two guys who, it's almost too simple. It's they take your Apple Health data and mash it up with their workflow, and they have sort of Pocket Goggins, Pocket Peter Attia, that is like your coach. And it's amazing that other people haven't done this yet. It's early days, of course, but they're looking at like 70 to 90% long-term retention with their initial users. And I use it, like it's gotten me to walk regularly, meditate regularly, change how I eat. So I think there's a lot of really obvious things that are sort of
So it's coming
in plain sight. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. So since we talked about 10x everywhere, right? Like 1/10 the employees, 1/10 everything. What's one idea a founder will come pitch you where you won't take 10 minutes, right? You won't even take a minute. Let's talk about 100x, 10 seconds. Cheating here for the people, right? Like what would that idea be? Where you're ready, 10 seconds.
Wait, 10 seconds? What do you mean? Like
they pitch and you say, I'm ready.
Oh, like you're funded?
Yeah.
Oh,
when does that happen?
Oh,
or at least 1/10, 1 minute. You don't even need to, like, how do we get there?
I mean, honestly, I just love the demo, right? Like sometimes I see
So
a
you're
demo.
saying start with that.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, ultimately it's like sometimes you see a product that is just really, really good, really, really powerful, and you've never seen anything like that before. So I don't know. I mean,
So let's
sorry for
create
the
those
non-answer.
products.
That sounds
we
great.
have many, many builders here.
I'm
Let's
sure
create
people are
those
already doing
products.
it. Yep.
And I think like we are out of time, right? Like please join me in thanking Gary, one of the legendary investors
guys.
of our era.